Nobody on Unity Station 7 had ever thrown a birthday party before. The station had hosted diplomatic receptions, cultural exchange ceremonies, a Delvari coming-of-age ritual that had required humidifying an entire corridor, and that nobody had fully understood but everyone had respected, and a retirement party for the outgoing sanitation chief that got unexpectedly loud. But a birthday party, the Earth kind, with its particular combination of sugar and loud children and brightly colored everything, was new. Aria Reyes was turning 7. Her mother, Sophia, was a dark-haired, warm-faced navigation systems analyst who had been on Unity Station 7 for 3 years, and who had learned in those 3 years that if you wanted something done aboard the station that wasn't already in the operational manual, you simply did it yourself and filed the paperwork afterward. She had reserved the community hall. She had ordered streamers and a banner and balloons through the next supply ship. She had bribed the security chief with homemade tamales to use the training simulation room for laser tag. Aria had one additional request. "I want to invite Krrath and Voss," she said. Sophia looked up from her party checklist. Krrath and Voss were Vrak'tai cubs, stocky, amber-eyed, already a full head taller than Aria despite being roughly the same developmental age, with the dense charcoal-gray fur and barely contained physical energy of young beings bred across generations for combat. They were part of the diplomatic exchange cohort. Aria had decided on approximately day 2 of their arrival that they were her friends, and nothing about their species' fearsome reputation had factored into this decision at all. "I'll send the invitation," Sophia said. The cubs showed up at exactly the scheduled time because Vrak'tai are constitutionally incapable of being late. They stood in the doorway of the transformed community hall, purple streamers, star-printed tablecloth, a banner reading "Happy Birthday Aria" in letters large enough to read from across the room, and went completely silent. It was the balloons that got them. Sophia watched it happen in real time. Krrath's amber eyes locked onto a purple balloon drifting near the ceiling with the involuntary, total focus of a predator cub, registering something floating and round and theoretically catchable. Every muscle in his shoulders went tight. His claws did not come out. He controlled that, but Sophia made a mental note to position herself between him and the balloon cluster until he had adjusted. "What are the round objects for?" Voss asked in careful trade tongue. "Balloons," Sophia said. "They're filled with air, decorative, the kids play with them." Voss looked at the children currently batting a yellow balloon back and forth with expressions of pure joy. "They serve no functional purpose," he said. "They make people happy," Sophia said. Voss looked at the balloons. He looked at the children. He appeared to be fundamentally restructuring his understanding of the word functional. Then Aria saw them from across the room and came over at the speed of a 7-year-old whose guests have arrived, wearing a purple dress and star clips in her braids, and she looked at Krrath and Voss with the uncomplicated happiness of a child whose birthday it is, and who has decided everything today is exactly right. "You came," she said. "We came," Voss said. "We brought a gift." It was a star map puzzle, 500 pieces, selected with obvious care. Aria looked at it and said, "Oh, this is so good," with the wholehearted conviction of a child who means it completely, and Krrath, who had been watching her face for the reaction, visibly relaxed. Laser tag was first because Aria had planned the order, and the order was law. The simulation room was dark and fog-filled, with soft-cover obstacles and sensor nodes on the walls. The recreation coordinator handed out vests and laser pistols and explained the rules. The human kids, who had played before, immediately scattered into the arena with the chaotic enthusiasm of experience. Krrath and Voss stood at the entrance for 3 seconds. They looked at the dark, foggy space, the cover obstacles, the moving targets. They looked at each other with the sudden, sharpened attention of beings who have recognized that this environment maps almost exactly onto training scenarios they run twice a week. What followed was not what the recreation coordinator had designed the arena for. Krrath moved through the obstacles with a fluid, low-profile efficiency that the arena's scoring system flagged twice as sensor malfunction before concluding, correctly, that one player was simply extremely accurate. Voss scaled a cover obstacle in 3 movements, established a sightline covering half the arena, and waited with the patience of something that has been taught to wait for the right moment since before it could read. The human kids adapted. 2 of them coordinated to flush Voss out of his high position. A third figured out Krrath's movement pattern and started anticipating him. The last 5 minutes were the most tactically complex event in the station recreation program's history. The final scores were close. When the lights came up, Krrath and Voss looked at the results, then at the human kids with an expression that on a Vrak'tai means, "You have earned something." "Good," Krrath said. It was one of his few trade-tongue words. From a Vrak'tai cub, it landed like a medal. Then Aria said cake, and all tactical considerations were immediately abandoned. Sophia brought it out from under its cover with appropriate ceremony, chocolate with purple frosting, Aria's name in silver icing. Everyone sang happy birthday. Aria's face did the thing children's faces do at exactly the right moment, that complete, full brightness that needs no translation. Then the cake was cut, and things got less ceremonial. Krrath received his slice and examined it with the careful attention he brought to unfamiliar things. He looked at the frosting. He looked at Voss's slice. He took a bite. His expression didn't change dramatically. Vrak'tai cubs are trained to control their expressions. What happened instead was a small pause in his chewing, his ears moving fractionally forward, and then a second bite taken considerably faster than the first. Voss was a few seconds behind. He looked at his cake. He looked at Sophia. "What is this made of?" he said, not as a question but as a demand for immediate classification. "Chocolate, flour, sugar, butter," Sophia said. "Sugar," Voss said. "Yes." Voss looked at his cake. He took another bite. He said something to Krrath in Vrak'tai. Their chaperone, a serious adult named Vrath who had been observing from the wall, translated quietly for Sophia. "Voss says humans have been withholding this. Krrath says it is more likely insufficient information sharing than deliberate concealment. Voss says the distinction doesn't matter." Sophia pressed her lips together to keep from laughing. After cake, balloons. It started when a purple balloon drifted past Krrath's chair in a slow, lazy arc, and this time Vrath's steadying hand was not on his shoulder. He batted it back. Not hard, the precise, controlled tap of a being applying about 4% of his actual strength. The balloon sailed across the room. A human kid caught it and batted it back. Krrath batted it back. Voss intercepted it from his chair, redirected it to Aria, who redirected it to the kid next to her. And within 30 seconds, every child in the room was playing an improvised, no-rules balloon game that made more noise than anything the community hall had produced since its installation. Sophia stood against the wall and watched predator cubs play with balloons at her daughter's birthday party. She had a feeling she was going to be telling this story for a long time. Vrath appeared beside her. She was watching Krrath, who had established himself as the unofficial balloon goalkeeper, stationed under the main cluster, redirecting anything that came down with focused, total commitment, the same expression he wore in tactical drills. "This is unusual for them," Vrath said. "Good unusual or bad unusual?" Sophia asked. "Good," Vrath said simply. She was quiet for a moment. "We prepare them for many things. We do not often let them simply be what they are right now." She watched Voss lunge after a balloon he'd fumbled, make a noise that in a smaller creature would have been called a giggle, and she said, "This is a gift." Sophia looked at her daughter, laughing too hard to make sound, batting a balloon back and forth with 2 of the most lethal young beings in 4-star systems. "Yeah," she said, "it usually is." When the party finally wound down into goodie bags, and the pleasant exhaustion of children who have used up everything they had. Krrath and Voss stood at the door putting on their coats. Voss turned to Aria. "Thank you for the invitation," he said. "You're my friends," Aria said, the way 7-year-olds state obvious facts. Krrath looked at her. "We will come to the next one," he said. It wasn't a question. "I'll be 8, Aria said. The two cubs looked at each other. Sophia recognized the look. She had seen it when Aria unwrapped something she'd really wanted. It was the look of beings quietly marking something down as important. 3 days later, Sophia found a container outside her door. Inside was a cake, dense and Vrak'tai made, the frosting a deep blue-green that tasted like something between vanilla and a word she didn't have. On top, in careful, uneven letters that had clearly taken effort, it said Aria. Under the container was a note. Most of it was in Vrak'tai script. The last line was in trade tongue, in the blocky handwriting of a cub who had practiced it. It said, "We made this ourselves. Save us a piece." Sophia put the note on the refrigerator. It stayed there for the rest of the year.